Yeah, this is the C-Town Rivals podcast, year 13, and yes, we're a couple teams in, and we've got a lot going on, and it's fun. Yes, this is lucky number 13, and we're gonna get after it like never before. We've got great insight, like we always do. There's some fresh, I'm gonna say fresh young blood who I haven't given a nickname to yet. That's probably a good thing. And as we joked a little bit earlier this past weekend, there's going to be a point where Adam Beadle and I finish each other's sentences. We are
Yeah.
on a couple of shows together. We're starting to know each other very well. And of course, Ralph Amsden. I can't say we finished each other's sentences. Well, you know what? Sometimes we have finished each other's sentences, but it has been a fantastic time. We've seen this podcast grow and grow. And the one thing I'll say, well, first off, getting back to basics, wow, our small schools, one win, one loss. And this week we will see all 8 teams in action. And I think we're going to touch on very lightly over the course of the podcast perhaps a 9th team, and that is Chandler Prep. And just the way we are all, I'm going to say our hands are in a lot of stuff, but Chris Ador, yes, we've gotten to know you. We like you a lot. And a 9th team, it's a lot, but we're certainly going to keep our eye out for you and your team. And you guys were a winner this past week. So I'm going to say in a pseudo way, welcome aboard, my man. But at the same time, Ralph, you need no introduction. How are you?
I'm good, man. I'm good. It was nice. I think one of the things I've loved that the AIA has done more than anything ever is offsetting 2A and 3A. It gives us a little bit of a like almost a preseason. Not that these games are less important, but there's less of them. And so to be able to hone in and focus on 1 or 2 games when the truth of the matter is for most people covering Arizona high school football, it might be the last time they see a 2A or a 3A team unless they're playing on a Thursday or a Saturday and they squeeze it in. So I always tried to make it a priority to hit 5 or 6 of those games a year, but it gets really difficult when you got Liberty Basha or something like that. And, and you're wanting to go see, Arizona Lutheran play or Odyssey Institute play or even Seton Catholic. It just gets difficult. And so the fact that I was able to watch the full Seton Catholic game, Adam Beadle was out of the Valley Christian game, it just, for the purposes of this podcast, really helps us get to know this team, where it starts, what their strengths and weaknesses are. And I love it. I mean, it wasn't the result that I was hoping for, but it was a fun game to watch, and it was fun to get to know the team a little bit.
Adam, what's good with you? You are always running around, which is good, and it's you got a lot going on. How was your week?
It's good. We're kicking into gear to football season. I think I'm really glad that this is always a fun week where the big schools kick off and ASU football kicks off, and so there's just so much excitement this time of year. And it's that point in time where you look forward to every Saturday, just kicking it back, sitting on the couch, watching some football. For me, it's, going covering an ASU game at night, and it's being out there on Friday nights and getting to see so many people that I enjoy talking to and enjoy being around. And always just, it's so great that football is back. That's really all I got.
Both of you are ASU guys. I will ask you, objectively, what is the Sun Devils' future for 2025? I mean, it's a talented bunch. I'm a big Jordan Tyson fan, that's for sure. Not so much from a player standpoint, but what can we look for in, I'm going to say, December, maybe even to January, fellas?
You want to take it, Adam?
Yeah, I'll take it. I mean, I can't say that honestly we're going to see much different of a team than we did last season. There's so much coming back. ASU only loses 2 guys defensively, and it's too deep. Obviously, you look at the offense, and the key guy there you're missing is Cam Scatabo. You just kind of try to find areas that you can replace him and replace the plays he ran. Obviously, you're not going to be able to replace a guy like Cam Scatabo. So I think for ASU, it's just it sounds weird to say, but it's like, keep doing what you're doing. keep having the success you're having, keep building together as a program. I think the ASU has more. This ASU team has more continuity on its roster than I've, to be honest, ever seen a college football team have. And maybe that goes back to some of the Nick Saban days at Alabama, where those teams just were all in it and all involved. And the coach, there's so much talent on that coaching staff. And I think that's probably going to be the most underrated part of this ASU team this season is their coaching staff. And the fact that there are so many fantastic coaches on this staff. You got a guy like Marcus Arroyo, who, if he has a successful year, will probably get a couple college teams calling his name to become a head coach. You got a guy like Brian Ward, who should at this point already be a college head coach based on the success he had at Washington State and he's had at ASU. A guy like Hines Ward, and I think the name just speaks for itself. Then you got the Chandler legend, Sean Aguano, still out there, just being out there because he simply loves to just be out there and coach running backs. And then obviously Jason Mon as well, and Trenton Bourget joining the staff. There's just, I could go on and on and on about all the good names. And I think the reason why ASU is going to have the same, if not similar, if not better success than that they did last season is because of the continuity and because of who they are as a team.
I'll ask you, and I'm going to ask Ralph about two teams. Adam, you've obviously spoken about one. For better or for worse, what's another college team that you have your eye on? And you don't even have to go into details, but just any other team beside ASU.
I talked about this last night with Cam Cox. It's got to be Washington. Just obviously Damon Williams at quarterback. And then you look at some of the other guys from Arizona that they have on their roster. Adam Muhammad, who will be the backup to Jonah Coleman. Desmond Roebuck, who just has had an unbelievable fall. Raiden Vines Bright, who used to play for Corona del Sol and now is with the IMG, and now he's in Washington. And then the guy from Hamilton, Grady Gross as well. And the guy from Hamilton, the NAU transfer, Alex McLaughlin, who I think is just going to have a monstrous year in the Big Ten. And I don't think the Big Ten really knows who Alex McLaughlin is yet, but they're going to learn very quickly that this kid is a playmaker and a stud.
Ralph, I got two teams for you. I'll ask you your thoughts on ASU, but the other because you're in proximity. You're in Clemson country, and the Tigers are looking for a big year.
Yeah, I'm obviously an ASU homer. I'm also a little paranoid. I think it all comes down to the quarterback. And what are we going to do if he lowers his shoulder and has to miss 3 games? And so, I worry about that. And I worry about maybe him not fully learning that there's more than one receiver on this team. So, if Sam Leavitt performs up to capabilities, I think ASU is going to have an absolutely special year. The potential is there for it. The potential is not always there for every team every single year. It's like playing Deal or No Deal. When the $1 million case goes off the board, you can only do so well. $1 million case is on the board for ASU, and I'm looking forward to seeing what they do with it. I live out near Clemson, and I went and I met Dabo, and I drank the Kool-Aid, and I think they're going to win a national championship. So, and that's the thing, man. You can't let that guy get in your ear. You can't. And I did. It's over for me now.
That's fair. Off the record, you guys know exactly the two teams who I pull for. I say it a whole lot on the Saturday show, but for this podcast, I'm going to drive it right back to high school, and we are going to start off with the Seton Catholic Sentinels. They took a trip to Round Valley on Friday night, and they fell to the Elks 45-21. The sophomore, Corey Edwards, he backed up Luke Aguiar last year. He had a short touchdown run. Patrick Fogarty, he returns a second half kickoff for a touchdown, also had a receiving touchdown. Ralph, they just couldn't really establish anything on the defensive side of the ball, and that led to their downfall.
Yeah, I mean, a couple of things. The Round Valley Dome is not the easiest place to play. It's a long road trip. Round Valley is a very good football team that has traditionally played a really specific style of football. Now that Round Valley is up at 3A, the evolution of Arizona high school football is such that you have to be able to throw the ball. Benjamin Franklin did it, and now Round Valley apparently has the ability to whip the ball all over the football field. And there were a couple of moments in the first quarter, I was like, okay, well, I think Seton is actually matching up with them pretty well. And then they got down, and it was 21-7 at half, or 28-7 at half, I believe. Mm-hmm. And then the opening kickoff, Patrick Fogarty tricks the cameraman, tricks me, tricks everybody with the fake toss cross. Could not have set it up any better, and just has a beautiful, beautiful kickoff return from the left side of the field all the way to the right side. There were some awesome blocks on that. I'll make sure I put the clip up on the Seatown Rivals Instagram of that fantastic kick return. And then at that point, you're like, all right, Seton Catholic has the momentum. This could end up being, pretty good. And Round Valley took the ball down and they scored immediately. And I have to say, Cage Finch was interesting to watch at quarterback. He had some escapability in the pocket. He made some deep throws. But they have a player on this team. His name is Jeffrey Cochran. He wears number 42. And he was the best player on the field by miles. 4 catches, 168 yards, and 2 touchdowns. And then on the defensive side of the ball, he had an interception that really kind of changed things. And I believe picked up a fumble as well. Just an incredible performance from him. And I think that there's not really much you can do when you're on the road, when the other team looks complete offensively. And the thing about Round Valley is if you grow up in Eager, these kids have been playing together since they were like 5 years old. So, the teams like Thatcher and Holbrook, and, it can be tough because, the familiarity is off the charts, but the fact that they had this extra dimension, maybe not really something you can prepare for. Seton Catholic lost to the better team, but I will say for anybody who didn't watch this game, you're just looking at the box score. Seton didn't look bad. They got beat on. And sometimes good teams get beat on by great teams. And I think Round Valley has opportunity to be a great team in 3A this year.
I fully agree. And Adam, this is actually the 4th straight loss that Seton Catholic has incurred on week 1. But as we know, last year they rebounded. This year they dropped down to 3A. From I'll say a depth factor, are they going to be able to handle this 3A schedule? On paper, I think they should.
Yeah, we talked about last week that their problems on the offensive line and having 5 sophomores out there starting. I think when that's the case, you're always going to have some bumps and bruises and some rough patches in your first week. And playing a team like Round Valley 2 in the Round Valley Dome, I don't think people understand how much support there is for that team and how truly like packed and loud that place can get. It's truly, that's 100% on my Arizona high school football bucket list is making it up to the Round Valley Dome. But I think, like you mentioned, we see this team bounce back. We've seen what they're able to do. We know that the continuity of the roster is there. I think it's just okay, let's step back. Let's kind of evaluate what happened this week and try to get back to the drawing board. And when you're young and you have some guys battling through injuries, sometimes you just got to fight through adversity. And I think we've seen the Seton team fight through adversity before, and I think they will again. Now, did they look as good as maybe I anticipated them being week 1? Maybe not, but again, week 1, still plenty of season. I think that they have the potential to keep building and possibly get up there.
I really like the Corey Edwards running back. I mean, he's in line for just a lot of carries over the course of his hopefully 4-year career at Seton Catholic, because you figure the Sentinels had so many blowouts last year. He got a lot of carries in half number 2, and now as a sophomore, he's truly the guy. So we'll see what the Sentinels can do this Friday night. They'll host 2A Santan Charter, and the Roadrunners, they've actually been to the semifinals each of the last 2 years. Yep. They had the big 48-7 win over Apache Junction. So it's another test for Pete Walheim's team. The Valley Christian Trojans, they get the season started off right with an 18-14 win over Sabino. Big plays seem to have come in the third quarter. Austin Shooter hit Asher Hansel for a 7-yard TD. Adam, I feel that combination could be called for a lot this season.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think Shooter actually surprised me a little bit by his performance. I knew the athleticism was there just talking to Coach Peterson over the spring and over the offseason. The big thing he he told me is, this guy might not have our best arm on the roster, but when you look at all of the capabilities and what he's able to do and his IQ, he makes for a really solid quarterback. And I think that was very evident in the Trojans game. He came out in the first drive on offense and really led that team down the field through a 32-yard touchdown to Asher Hansel. And Asher Hansel just, man, that kid continues to just wow me every time I see him and his abilities and the way he's able to go up and get the ball. But I think when you look at this Valley Christian game and this team performance, you got to point out the defense. Yes, it looked a little sloppy at times, but this defense really held their own. And in the last 10 minutes or so of the game specifically, Valley Christian throws an interception. Sabino comes back on offense. There's about 7:50 left on the clock. And Valley Christian was able to hold Sabino from not even moving up the field. Sabino moved backwards, wasn't able to get the first down. They were out of timeouts, and they wasted all practically 7 minutes they had to try to get an opportunity. That's the exactly the kind of passion you want to see from your defense playing in a week 1 game. And that really gave me a lot of optimism for what this Valley Christian team can do this season, because we know they've got a lot of talented players on their offense. When I saw their defense play, it was really the defense that surprised me and made me go, okay, I think this team is maybe capable of doing something this year.
I tell you what I like about going out to Valley Christian games. There's 2 things. Obviously, the burgers at that concession stand, they really treat their media right. But the other scenario, think about it, guys. It's one of the few fields left that still has regular grass. So you're still smelling that natural grass smell. It's like old school, but still kind of new school with the scoreboard. So it's a lot of fun, Ralph.
Absolutely. Love that field. Love that school. And I highly recommend going to ArizonaVarsity.com, checking out the highlight video that Adam Beadle put together from his game out there. Probably my favorite clip was who's the defensive back, Noah?
Yeah.
Noah Lewis?
Yep, Noah Lewis.
The way he was celebrating when he came down with that interception, man, that was infectious. That had me up out of my chair. So very, very cool. I'll make sure to link that when we get this podcast posted as well.
I'll tell you guys what, I have never sweated more in a game at my life than at the Valley Christian game on Friday. It felt like I was covering a high school football game in Florida. I kept turning to Logan Stanley, who was there from the Arizona Republic, and I'm like, are we in Florida right now? Because my shirt is just soaking wet. And it was the heat, the humidity was brutal on Friday, but the game made up for it.
And Ralph, I'll say for a team that struggled last year, winning that opener is big. Just the 1-0 mindset, because that's what every team strives to do every week. And so for them to get that opening W, that's huge.
Yeah, I mean, Austin Shooter gets to go out there, have his first real live varsity experience, throw 2 picks, fumble 3 times, and survive. That's the best feeling in the world when your mistakes put you in a position where you need the defense to give you a little pick me up, and then they take care of you, and then oh wow, if I clean this up, we run away with that game.
Right.
And so I think that's a really good place mentally to be for Austin Shooter, and I'm looking forward to seeing what they do next.
And indeed, next up are the Cougars of Show Low High School. Show Low is 1-0, and the last time these teams met, it was 2022 season, and indeed it was won by Show Low. So obviously VC is looking for a little bit of revenge, and yeah, the Trojans, I think they have a lot of good things going for them. The Arizona College Prep Knights, they'll open their first ever 5A schedule on Saturday. That game will be up in Flagstaff at NAU. The opponent, the Willow Canyon Wildcats out of Surprise, Arizona. Last year, Willow Canyon was a 3-7 team. ACP, they'll play this game, obviously, as we said, in neutral territory. Their first game under Derek Zellner. Ralph, while defense is big, I like the fact that offensively they've got a lot of weapons coming back. It's just that they move up a level.
Yes. And so, you have to ask yourself, is it negated? Is any of the strength and development and depth and returning starters, does all that end up negated by the schedule that you play? And ultimately, we're going to see. Evan Heinrich threw for 2,500 yards last year, 180 a game. Is he going to be able to do that at this level? He's certainly not going to have a 30-1 touchdown to interception ratio, That's, that I'm not even saying that was an outlier because he accomplished it over a full season, but to expect somebody to come in and do that at 5A, no, he's going to have to grit and grind some of these out to be able to move the team down the field. Obviously, there's different coaches involved, and we'll see how it goes. But they have players who played in a 4A championship against a Micah Mountain team that, if we're being honest with ourselves, probably could have at least made the 5A semifinals last year.
That's
fair.
How
stacked that team was. So it's not like they have not been challenged. They played some decent teams at the 4A level last year. I think they were Arcadia's only 2 losses, right? So they're going to need this baptism by fire that comes in the early part of the season to get them ready to possibly do some damage if they find themselves in the 5A playoffs.
And Adam, I will say, yes, I agree. Baptism by fire. I'm looking at this week 2 game that they got with Desert Mountain coming in, but again, that's in a couple of weeks. They got to take care of business first up in Flagstaff. Have you been to that NAU Dome, Adam?
I've been there at least 3 times this summer. I've been up there. I try to make it up there all the time. I love the NAU area. I love just, I'm one of those people where, I love the NAU campus. I love the school. I love everything about, downtown Flagstaff. I would never go to NAU. I don't know. I would never go there, but I love everything about it. So it's nothing personal. I would never go to the school, but I think this is a great location for some, beginning of the season neutral site games. I think it just adds some excitement, especially like a team like ACP under a first-year head coach, just to get your players going in a new conference under a new coach. I think it's just like, what a better way to kick off the season.
Absolutely. No, we're definitely having our eye on the Knights of ACP. Another first-year head coach in the Valley, Joe Bushman and the Casteel Colts. They'll open up the season in the San Diego area on Friday against Helix High School. Last year, they were 6-6. They lost in round 2 of the playoffs to the eventual 6A champ Centennial. The year before, they fell to Brophy. Certainly no shame in 2022, falling to Deuce Robinson in the semis, 49-42. Adam, I say all of this to say that while Casteel doesn't seem to move the needle a lot, they are a very, very tough out once postseason rolls around.
Absolutely. Casteel's always going to come out with a team at the end of the year and post a challenge to teams who are really trying to make a deep playoff run. And I think that's kind of just the unique thing about Casteel. It's going to be interesting to watch them this year and see how their cards fall under a new head coach. And I know they're still kind of figuring out the situation over there at quarterback. And I think what's really going to be unique and strong for them is the fact that they do go on the road these first 2 weeks of the season and or not on the road, but playing 2 out-of-state teams. I think that kind of helps your team build some character, build some resilience, and really just learn, play together. And then once you come back to Arizona, you really hit the ground running and, making a playoff run and beating some of these teams. Another thing that I question, down the road, and, we don't have to talk about this a lot, but I wonder if, Casteel playing these 2 out-of-state games to begin the year versus playing, maybe one another in-state team will maybe make their chances, of making the playoffs a little odd. I'm not sure how that works in terms of, what could happen if, maybe they played another Arizona team in week 2 instead of another California team. Does not playing that one game maybe hurt your chances of making the playoffs a little bit if, say, cards don't fall your way?
No, it's a great point. No, I think that's a very good point. And Ralph, they've got new teams on their schedule this year. The CUSD region, as we knew it, is broken up. Hopefully that helps. But yeah, the schedule is it's different this year, both at the beginning and the end.
It is. I have a question for you guys. Brett, I expect you to get this. So I'll go to Adam first. When Brett said Helix High School, who's the first player that comes to mind?
I don't know.
There's really only one, and some people think he's the GOAT. Brett, do you know?
Did Brady go there? No.
Reggie Bush.
Oh, wow. Okay.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, so that's kind of a cool thing for Casteel High School to go share the same field that Reggie Bush.
No, that's a great question. I did not realize that that's where he went. Okay. No,
Yeah,
that's
I believe some Arizona teams have gone out there before. I think maybe Saguaro has done it.
sounds right.
And so I think it's such a cool opportunity. And we've talked a lot about wanting to inject fun into Casteel High School football. Not too much fun. We do remember when they went and put 70 points on pace and throwing in the second half, Gunner Cruz.
Yeah.
Not too much fun. Not too much. But if you can put 70 points, on Helix, you're welcome to have all the fun you want.
That's
that put on for the state of Arizona. That'd be really cool. I look at this schedule and I wonder, we're really not going to know. I'm not a big fan of out-of-state games because I don't get to evaluate two Arizona teams at the same time if I'm investing 2 hours to watch the game. Right. And my priority is Arizona high school teams, and by extension for this podcast, Chandler area teams. And so, I'm going to enjoy pulling this game up and watching it. I don't know how much we'll learn. I don't know how similar the style is out there, but I look at this schedule and I see opportunity for Casteel. I think whether we've talked about it publicly or privately, we're kind of looking at this as a 2-year build. By the end of year 2, we'll see what this is all about, but we're going to see flashes of it this year, undoubtedly. And I just want to see these players playing fast and loose and confident, and they'll get an opportunity to do that in San Diego.
Absolutely. No, we're definitely looking forward to seeing the Colts in action. And another team we're looking forward to seeing in action, the Chandler Wolves. Ralph, first assignment for Ty Wisdom and crew is at Centennial. I think this is a scenario where if you want to be the best again, you got to beat the best. And in this case, it's a Coyotes who are on top. They're the reigning champions. So it's I like that they're getting after it with a serious team on week 1.
Yeah, and I believe my first game with you on staff might have been Chandler Centennial.
That sounds right.
If I'm not mistaken, Chase Lucas breaking out as a sophomore, scoring 2 touchdowns.
Wow, that sounds right. Yeah.
Shout out to Chase Lucas, by the way, made the 53-man roster for the Niners today.
Niners, good stuff.
You know what? Good for him. And I'll say this because he played for the Lions. He managed to grind his way into being a special teams contributor. He made a pretty public mistake against the 49ers. And the 49ers happened to have his mortal enemy in their defensive backfield. And he alienated 49ers fans. If you've seen the photos, he went after Diamador Lenore, who he had beef with when he was at Oregon and Chase was at Arizona State, and who was in coverage on that Brandon Ayuk touchdown that kept Oregon from going to the college football playoff. But he's got long-standing beef with Diamador Lenore, and he signed that 49ers contract, and he walked into that locker room, and it wasn't 3 weeks before Diamador Lenore got to see the real Chase Lucas, and then they are best of friends. And for him to turn around and make this roster, to win some of these fans over, to love Chase is to know him. It really is. And they're getting to know him, and I hope that he is a contributor for this team. It's very, very cool to be able to look out and watch, Brock Purdy and Chase Lucas be on the same roster. I mean,
that is crazy.
Who would have thought this would be our life? So, super, super proud of Chase Lucas. Going to be a fan of him for eternity. And I love the way that he walked into that locker room and made himself valuable and made up with some guys that he had some beef with. And it's just the coolest thing. I say all that to say this. I don't think Centennial's ever beaten Chandler in the regular season. I could be wrong about that. If they did, it came after Chandler started actually winning games. Or it was before Chandler started winning games. It's a new era for Centennial, sort of. Not like Andrew Taylor hasn't been there calling the defense this entire time. And they've had some absolutely fantastic games against the Chandler Wolves. I remember they even had a scrimmage one time where they kept giving the ball. Chandler kept giving the ball to this one player. And I was like, I don't even have him on my season preview. And Chris Chick, rest his soul, at the time was like, well, yeah, that's our 4th string running back, TJ Green.
Wow. That's deep.
And the scrimmage against Centennial ended up being evidence that, they had a monster in the making at running back. So I have fond memories of Chandler going up against Centennial. This is going to be a tough one. to be an awesome challenge right out of the gate for Ty Wisdom. I'm just, again, my plea is to Chandler fans to understand that this is a new era and maybe have some patience.
Absolutely.
Maybe, Centennial's also in a place where they just lost their starting quarterback right before the season. So, and they have an alumni coming back to run their offense. So it's going to be different. It's not going to be the same smash mouth Centennial that you're used to. And this isn't going to be the same Chandler High that we're used to. So new era for both teams. Extremely, extremely excited to see how this game goes. I'm not planning for a loss when I say this. All I'm saying is I don't feel like this game is going to be evidence of how this season is going to go for either team. This is an opportunity to really feel each other out and maybe set the tone for some stuff we'll see later in the season. But regardless of the result of this game, going to be a long season of evolution for Centennial. Going to be a long season of evolution for Chandler.
That's fair. And as I look at your background, Ralph, I believe that is a picture of Chase Lucas behind you in the ASU uniform. That's awesome. And then also TJ Green, I believe he's on staff with the Wolves now, working with the running back. So that's terrific. Adam, it seems like we have been talking about the Chandler Wolves for a long time, and I'm ready to see Will Menzel. I'm ready to see Jai Jones. I just want to get this popping because this Wolves build up. I'm very anxious for this season.
Absolutely, and I think there's no doubt that the consensus has been that Ty Wisdom can be the guy to help turn this Chandler program around and help bring it to where it once was. And I agree with Ralph. I think that this game is going to be a depiction of what either of these teams is going to look like this season. And I say that because I feel like we always see a Centennial team that kind of starts slow out the gates or always, has some sort of adversity they have to overcome. I look back to their game against Hamilton last year when they were missing practically half their team due to transfers and injuries. And then obviously we saw what happened the rest of the year, right? So it's really a guessing game sometimes with Centennial, trying to figure out what team you're going to get. And for Chandler, I think there's a lot you can look and see what this team is on paper and the talent they have and the kind of guys that are on their roster, but you're never really going to know how they work together until you watch them against another team. You can get, some of stuff out of practice. You can see, who some of the top dogs are, who the biggest contributors are, but you don't really get to see what the team is as a whole until they face another team. So I'm really just excited to see what the style of play they bring this year. And I think for the Chandler, I think the thing for Chandler this year, the theme, at least in my eyes, I see is how bad do you want it? And I think that's the big message for Chandler this year is that they've had a couple of down years. They haven't exactly been where they wanted to be. Yes, they're in the open division. Yes, they make it pretty far. They had a couple state championship appearances. They haven't won it since 2020. And I think a 5-year absence for a Chandler state championship in any division is a long time. It really is. 5 years is a long time considering the run they've been on in the 2000s. So I think for Chandler, you look at it this year, go, how much do you want it? And that's a game by game thing. I think another key for them, you got to stay injuries. Obviously, there was a bit of a problem for them last year, and so staying healthy will be big too. We'll see how explosive this Chandler team can be this season because I really think that is where they're going to shine the most is those explosive plays.
And I'm praying that we get to see Luke Franklin and Blake Spear go one-on-one in some of these reps.
Oh yeah.
Because that's one of the best pass rushers in the state against one of the better tackles in the state. And man, that's what I love to see is just the state's best go at it head to head. And I don't know if they're going to have an opportunity to go one-on-one, but I'm going to be watching that game for that purpose.
And I think on the other side too, you got a guy like Ben Lothar, ASU Golden Ticket, and Jackson Zembricki, who is just really blown up. And if you haven't seen Jackson Zembricki, go watch some of his film. Or this kid is just an absolute monster. And so I'm excited for that matchup too. Centennial offensive line, Chandler defensive line as well. It's going to be a fun game. It really is.
And as we alluded to over the course of the season, especially with Chandler, just being a little bit more disciplined. I mean, years past, they could get away with giving up those 15-yard penalties here and there. But this is where, hey, you need to rein it in because with I'm going to say unproven team like this, 15 yards in a game against a formidable opponent could be the difference in a win or a loss. It certainly could be. So we'll see how the Wolves progress. The Perry Pumas, a year ago, they were 6-6 under head coach Joseph Ortiz, and big things are expected of them this season. And it all starts at Boulder Creek High School on Friday. Ralph, as I look at their schedule, there's 3 straight road games, region road games at that, in the back part of October. But I think as a whole, that 6A Southern Division, which is where they play, it's very favorable to them.
Yeah, I was actually kind of shocked at the fact that, I went through the Sullenberger magazine, and there just wasn't there are not a lot of people who believe that Perry is a top 4 team in the state. I feel like they have that potential. But 3 of the 4 people that, write for the magazine, Jose Garcia, Andy Morales, and Brian Bergner, they all believe that ALA Queen Creek, which I think is returning like 4 total starters, is going to be above Perry this year. And to me, that's kind of the metric that I look at. Brian Bergner, he didn't have Perry in the top 12. I don't believe. And so, there's just not. Neither did Skoda. Didn't have him in the top 12 either. So I think that Perry has a lot to prove this year. I think that they should take any slight that they get and blow it up and use it to motivate the heck out of this team. I think that they have the talent to be one of the top 4 teams in 6A. I really do. They got to live up to it, and they're going to have an awesome opportunity at Boulder Creek to do that. I mean, this is a team that I think a couple of years ago scared the living daylights out of Hamilton.
Yep.
Yeah, that was last year.
Yeah. And so you do got to be careful, because that Anthem, I think Anthem just got an ALA school, but other than that, for the most part, again, these are a lot of guys that just kind of grow up playing together, and they can shock you. So my hope is that they go out there and take care of business, and don't make it a fright fest the way that Hamilton did last year, and just move on to the next week.
Adam, who else do we look for beside Ricky Stewart and Cale Snyder?
Wide receiver, obviously got to look at Max Windle-Schaefer. I think this kid is probably the most underrated player on this team. Just his ability, his speed, and his ability to run his routes, and kind of just, he's one of those guys I think that Cale doesn't have a lot of. Yes, he's got Amos Augustine. That's a very reliable receiver. But I think Max is one of those guys where Cale can just throw it, and he knows that Max is right there to get it. One of my favorite clips I got this summer was at a 7-on-7 tournament up at NAU, and Cale Snyder just launched it all the way towards the end zone, right over the shoulder of Max Windle-Schaefer, and it landed right in front of me. It was just a perfect pass. Max was at the right place at the right time. Another guy as well I've talked about, Talon Frazier. I think he's going to be one of the best 2-way playmakers in the state. He'll play a little running back and a little bit of linebacker. When you just have a big body like that, I think you're able to just do so much on both sides of the ball. This is going to be, I think, a proving year for Perry. You got to prove that you can hang with the top dogs, and you can be one of the top dogs. And so I'm really just excited to see how they prove themselves. And I also saw Ralph talked about finished business or unfinished business. I believe they're going to be on a show on 3TV this year called Unfinished Business, a little documentary I think they're doing. So it's going to be fun to watch this Perry team and hear some of the stories and a little behind the scenes look as to what goes into this season.
No, it's definitely good stuff. No, we can't wait to get this season started as we're talking about this. And yes, we're in the midst of leading up to week 1. Next team on the docket, the Hamilton Huskies. They were an open semifinalist a year ago before falling to the Liberty Lions. Adam, a lot of things are expected from your alma mater this year. What needs to happen for them to get to that point, and then maybe another jump?
Yeah, I think similar to Perry, you got to prove that you can hang with the top dogs. Hamilton has not had the best luck the last couple of years in the open division playoffs, and I think this year's probably going to be the hardest of them all. And I say that because there's a lot of young guys on this roster this year. Yes, you have some senior leaders and the Jandro brothers who are just going to have a monster year, and some big dogs in the offensive line like Rex Waterman. And then you got Logan Ray, who won't come in until game 5 because of transfer rules. But I think the big question is, what is Jack Scully going to look like? How is he going to perform? Is he ready to take charge in this offense? There's no doubt he's got a really reliable wide receiver in Roy Oliver. But I think what a lot of people are going to be surprised by is what Hamilton does on the ground this season. They've got a running back in Jacob Brown, who is very seasoned, has played a long time in the Arizona high school football world. He helped Saguaro win our 6A championship in 2022. I believe 23. I forget what year. It was the year of Zach Hill, which, seeing what Jacob did in that offense only makes me excited for what they're able to do in this one. And Hamilton has brought in a lot of great coaches over the spring to help kind of develop these players. One of those being former Ohio State wide receiver Johnny Dixon, who did a lot of great things over the course of his career at Ohio State. So getting to see him develop these wide receivers and what they can turn into. I think Christian Riley is another name to watch out for. He's a wide receiver that's going to be really skilled this year for Hamilton, but there's a lot of question marks about how well this Hamilton team can perform. And I think you can prove that you can do it in the first 3 weeks of the season. It's going to be interesting to see what they're able to do once region play hits.
And Ralph, indeed, they open on Thursday. That's a game that I'll be at ALA Queen Creek. It's a good test from the get-go.
Yeah, and you got to, Rich Edwards is a good coach, but you got to go out there and you got to take care of business. This is a Hamilton roster that has over 40 players listed at above 6 feet. It has 30 players that are listed above 200 pounds. It's got 11 players that are listed above 230. You can't even say don't look like Tarzan and play like Jane anymore because Samara Taylor Jenkins goes to school at Hamilton. Like, Jane is Tarzan at this point. So, they need to play like they look. They look good. They look ready. They look big. They look strong. They got a coach with championship pedigree. There's excitement around the program. It feels like they're trending upward. I don't want to say this is a must win, especially because the last time that they won a title, they started out 0-2. So, you never say never, but I feel like this is a must look good. It really is. And it's not like they spend a lot of time last year looking like they didn't know what they were doing, but early in the season, it did look like they weren't as prepared, weren't necessarily in midseason form. Going into year 2, you want to see this team come out, shut things down with the Jandro brothers, run the ball, and really pick and choose what they're doing in the passing game. Go out there and take what you want. ALA, I've said for years, ALA belongs in the conversation with the Chandlers and the Bashas and the Hamiltons. They have the facilities, they have the resources, they have the coaching, they have the community investment. If you go and you smack a team like that, then it's going to set the tone for a really special season.
Absolutely. And last but certainly not least, the Basha Bears. They open up downtown against the Brophy Broncos, a team they've defeated 3 consecutive times. The Bears, of course, state runners-up last year to the Liberty Lions. The Bears are loaded. Adam, I will say just like I used to tell our old cohorts, dude, you got 90 seconds. Tell us everything Basha, because there is a lot going on. Just rattle it off.
Yeah, there's so many talented players on this roster. I could sit here and name it. I wish I could sit here and name every single one of them. I don't know all of them on the top of my head, but there are so many playmakers on both sides of the ball, and it all starts with quarterback Brody Veers, who is primed to have a huge season. And I think he's going to have a very similar successful of a season that we saw Damon have in his senior year. I think, and I say that because he really encompasses what it means to be a leader. I've seen it at their practices. I've seen it at the scrimmages. I've seen it just everything he's done with the team. He really takes charge. I told that story last week about him hanging out with Bash's new offensive lineman, DeJean Yarborough. And this kid is huge. And I think you look at the offensive line, Jake Hildebrand at left tackle, DeJean at right tackle and wide receiver, Cash Brock, Jaden Baldwin in the backfield, Noah Roberts, a guy that nobody's even talking about, Joshua Gaines, who I don't think people are even ready for the kind of season he's going to have in the backfield. And then you look defensively, this is a secondary who probably has been playing together. This is a group that has been playing together the most over the last 3 years. A lot of the seniors on this team started for Basha as sophomores.
Yep.
That's when Basha was still trying to find their identity, still searching, and they went on to win. The year before that, they went on to win the Open Division, and then the next year they had these sophomores going, and they were trying to figure it out. And obviously, they got back to the Open last year. So I think this is a group with a whole lot of continuity, and really interested to see what it looks like with Chris McDonald calling the plays this year. I think it's going to allow Brody to be a lot more creative and kind of come up with some stuff on his own than he wants to do offensively. I think there's just there's an endless amount of possibilities that this Basha team could have this season, and I think ultimately we gas them all up. We talk all of this. I truly believe that the only answer for a successful season for Basha this year is winning an Open Division championship.
Ralph, talking about the Basha Bears is similar to talking about the Chandler Wolves in the back half of the decade of the 2010s, only without the titles. I mean, the talent is there. I mean, obviously Basha won a couple of years ago, but at the same time, there's not a lot of questions. It's more of, hey, as long as they execute, they will be successful. They've got the pieces in place on both sides of the ball. So there's not a lot for us to be enlightened about anymore, especially not until game time happens.
Absolutely. And, this Brophy team is scary. They've got the big names. They have a very good friend at head coach who I'm rooting for very much. Fully expect him to tune into this to see how I spin my favoritism for Basha over Brophy. I will say this: Noah Roberts is bigger than every linebacker at Brophy, including Bastian Vandenbach.
That's crazy.
Yeah, he is, and shout out to the Vandenbosches. But you put a hat on a hat, and you free up your running back to go one-on-one with any one of these linebackers. I'm expecting Noah Roberts to win that matchup.
Uh-huh.
So I think that's going to be the difference to me is, if Brophy is able to muddy things up and there aren't really a lot of holes for Noah to run through, then that's a different story. But if you can get Noah into open space, it's going to completely change up what Brody Veers is able to do offensively. And like we've talked about on this podcast, they've simplified that offense. And really what it's going to come down to for me is then can Basha turn around defensively and slow down Brophy. We might have a barn burner on our hands, or it could be one of those physical old school Brophy versus Hamilton games that, the last possession wins. But I expect Basha to win this game if the offensive line is able to handle their individual responsibilities.
That's fair. That's definitely fair.
Prediction I'll make.
No, I'm with you on that. Well, it is prediction times, gentlemen. We always like to throw out just general synopsis. I'll ask you guys, will there be a gold ball hoisted at the end of the year by any of our teams at whatever level? We don't have to identify any teams, but will a team that we talk about be a champion, whether it's 2A, 3A, 6A, or open? One. I'm with you with that. I am definitely with you with that. Mr. Beadle.
My pick is Basha, the open division, but I think there's so many question marks in the 6A conference when you got a team like, I think that 8th spot in the open division is so up in the air, whether it could go to a Brophy, a Queen Creek, a Mountain View, heck, even a Perry, if they have the kind of season that they possibly have the potential to have. I think there's absolutely a way we will see with the new format in the open division where
keep in mind, I got another question to ask you guys that kind of rolls into that, but So what's your goal ball answer? 1 or 2?
Okay, 1. I'll go with
1.
Basha.
Fair enough. Now, with that being said, and I think we're all in agreement with the 1, how many state semifinalists will we have? That's where it gets interesting with the formats. I'm going to say 3.
How many teams do we cover?
We cover 8.
8.
I think there's going to be two teams in the open division final. It'll be Basha and it'll be Chandler. I think Hamilton will lose its open division matchup, drop back into the 6A conference. And if that happens, I'm going to change my prediction and say that Hamilton's going to win the 6A conference.
Adam, how many teams? 3, 6, 4? It's just, I'm saying 3 for however reasons we want to spin it.
I go 3.
3. Ralph?
8.
Everybody is going to make a semifinal in some capacity?
Yeah, why not?
Okay.
What am I going to do? Go to jail if I'm wrong?
I didn't think about this. 4. I'm going 4.
4? Okay. No, that's fair. No, that's why we like to throw out these random questions, and we'll see how the season unfolds, but it will be a fun season as always. I mean, I'll say I'm ready to see some winning football. I think about the last 3 CUSD games I've seen. You figure seeing Basha fall in the open final, seeing ACP fall in the 4A, and doing the play-by-play of Hamilton's loss in the open semi. So I want to see a win. I'm ready to see some football. It's going to be good.
We got to lock Brett in the closet.
Yes, it's been the luck has not been great, but now it all starts this weekend. Folks, we have chatted it up. We've broken down some college football. We have broken down the CUSD along with our 2 schools of faith, the smaller schools. We've touched on Chandler Prep that we'll slowly introduce over the course of this year. But overall, he's Adam Beadle. He's Ralph Amsden. I'm Brett Quintyne. We'll see you guys next week on the C-Town Rivals podcast.